Hey folks, John Ferguson Smart here. I wanted to answer a question that I got recently about where do you put your test automation code? Do you put it in a separate repository, a separate project, all on its own, focused exclusively on test automation, or do you put it alongside your application code? Now, I know for a lot of testers, putting your test automation code feels more natural if you put it in its own repository and its own project. And this sort of comes back from an old school style of automation where we had totally separate tools and totally separate teams, even a very siloed approach. In Agile, that doesn't work so well. In Agile, if your test automation code is in a separate repository, it actually makes things quite hard because you can't line up what you're automating with what you're actually delivering. So it makes continuous integration very difficult. So ideally, your test automation code should be as close to possible as your application code. Now, there are some caveats with this. There are some special cases, like what happens if you're building microservices? What happens if you have multiple repositories? If you truly do have microservices, and you truly do have many repositories deploying at a different cadence, with different life cycles, and you're not just basically breaking up a monolith into a whole bunch of microservices that you all deploy in one go. If you really do have different repositories, then you still try and make as much as your application code, as much as your test automation code go near the code that it is testing. And you might have a few end-to-end user journey type scenarios that do exercise a flow, a journey through multiple services. But the problem with that is that they become very tricky. They become very cumbersome because you need to deploy everything before you can test anything. So in a continuous integration environment, it becomes very hard and very unmanageable. So the more you can put near the application code, the better you'll be. And this is where we have techniques like consumer-driven contracts, and BDD does help for that as well. We have an outside-in approach where we describe the requirements at different levels and we work down into the microservices. So we have techniques for that, but still you do want to try to get it as close to your code as possible. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Thanks for listening, folks.